This is a shocking leak out of the Supreme Court.
A seismic shift in American law.
This is just the beginning.
The whole issue of contraceptives. Do you support any restrictions on a person's right to contraception?
Well, we're looking at that, and I'm going to have a policy on that very shortly. And I think it's something that you'll find interesting. And it's another issue that's very interesting. But you will find it, I think, very smart. I think it's a smart decision.
When Roe was overturned, the Supreme Court showed its cards, its real self. And now with Clarence Thomas saying that a ban on contraception is in play, you have to ask yourself, what's next? Good question. Trump did this interview with a Pittsburgh radio station, as you heard, and said he would be looking at restrictions on contraception. He was straight out asked if he supported restrictions on a person's right to contraception. Here it is again.
Well, we're looking at that, and I'm going to have a policy on that very shortly. And I think it's something that you'll find interesting. And it's another issue that's very interesting. But you will find it, I think, very smart.
Then someone said, hey, you're a freaking idiot. Women are going to kill you. So Trump did what he always does. He lies, tweeting out this.
I've never and never will advocate imposing restrictions on birth control or other contraceptives. This is a Democrat fabricated lie, misinformation, disinformation, because they have nothing else to run on except failure, poverty, and death. I do not support a ban on birth control, and neither will the Republican Party.
How effing stupid are his Republican supporters? He's clearly mental, shatting in his pants while falling asleep in court. But now, if you didn't know, you know. The whole Trump campaign is built on secret lies to the evangelical base, or as Trump calls them,
voices of famed evangelical.
Evangelicals give Trump money and he will give them anything they want. Trump's appointments to the court are why there are no longer any rights left for women in this country. 26 states have or are pushing to ban abortions, including when a woman is raped, even by family members. And the right to contraception is under attack too. In Idaho, state legislators there passed a law banning universities from distributing information about contraception. Then last year, the chair of the State House Committee specifically said banning Plan B and IUDs is on the table. 14 more red states are in talks to do the same. Do you believe this? Under Trump, women are under attack.
Yes, what is ban? How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you know, you'll go back to a position like they had where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it.
Do you believe believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
This is a guy who, while being deposed, said he didn't rape Jean Carroll because she wasn't his type.
When you said that Ms. Carroll was not your type, you meant that she was not your type physically, right?
She is not my type.
And again, when you say type, you just refer to looking at photos. So you mean physically she's not your type?
Physically, she's not my type.
And this is who will have autonomy over your body. How does that feel?
The next battle over reproductive rights may have already begun after Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas suggested the court should reconsider the case protecting access to contraception. Several major pharmacies like CVS and Rite Aid are imposing limits on the purchase of emergency contraception, also known as the morning after pill, following a surge in demand.
If you don't have that option, then you're just stuck with options that are less effective.
Elizabeth Dowdy says she and her husband don't want children, so she has an IUD, but she lives in Louisiana, where a law this spring would have banned abortion at fertilization, making IUDs and emergency contraceptives illegal. That bill failed.
If an accident happens, I don't want to have to travel across the country to a state that's willing to have it. That shouldn't need to happen.
I'm sorry to say it's getting worse. If Trump wins, Justice Breyer's 82. He may not make it to 86. I don't know, but that would give Trump another pick for these guys.
And, you know, Leviticus 20:13 clearly says, if a man also lie with mankind as he lieth with the woman, both of them have committed an abomination, they shall surely be put to death.
In 1873, Congress passed the Comstock Act. The statute defined contraceptives as obscene and illicit, making it a federal offense to disseminate birth control through the mail or across state lines. That law lasted 90 years, and it was just 5 years after the pill was approved for use as a contraceptive in 1960 that birth control finally became legal nationwide across the U.S. But as you've heard, heard, the Supreme Court is poised to do some real damage here. For the record, the risk in continuing a pregnancy to term exceeds that of an early, safe abortion by literally an order of magnitude. If women have no other option than to carry a pregnancy to term, the U.S., which already ranks last out of all developed nations in maternal health, will only deepen this crisis. By banning contraception, Trump and his court will be sentencing women to death. Current statistics from the CDC paint a stark picture. In 2019, 750 healthy mothers died during pregnancy. In 2020, another 850 women died. And for each of those women who died, 70 more suffered a pregnancy-related life-saving intervention or procedure. And death for pregnant women is inextricably bound to race, class, and age. Women 45 years or older experience nearly 10 times the odds of dying from pregnancy as compared to those younger than 35. And black women are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy.
So this has been even called into question because Justice Clarence Thomas issued a separate opinion today saying the court should now reconsider other rulings, including one from 1965 that upheld the right to privacy. The justice is then finding that within that privacy concept, married and unmarried couples had a right to use birth control.
In 1960, the Food and Drug Administration approved the first oral contraceptive. 2 years later, the American Medical Association reports 1 million women were using it. Now, legal experts say it could be restricted or even banned. The Supreme Court decided a person's right to use birth control in the 1965 Griswold versus Connecticut case, citing in part the 14th constitutional amendment that affords people the right to privacy.
And it just gets worse. Supreme Court Justice Alito, who had his U.S. flag upside down to protest the 2020 election, sold his shares of Bud Light to protest Anheuser-Busch's using a trans model in its marketing. Do you believe that? On the same day that Alito sold Anheuser-Busch, he then bought the same amount of stock in Coors. They just don't care anymore.
Justice to do that, and should he recuse himself in any cases relating to the election?
It seems to me there are just nonstop attacks on the Supreme Court, week after week after week. And so I'm not going to dignify that with a response.
You skanky old turd, they have lifetime positions unless they violate the ethical standards that used to effing matter. We have every right to question them.
The Supreme Court has spoken, but that is not the end of the legal challenges.
No, and in fact, they've already started in the states. Planned Parenthood is challenging the trigger law now in effect in Utah, saying that even though the Supreme Court has ruled that there's no right to abortion in the U.S. Constitution, the right is nonetheless protected by Utah's state constitution because it provides greater family-related legal protections and guarantees of personal autonomy.
Here's the deal. Women are under attack by Trump, Republicans, and the courts. And if Trump somehow wins, well, a convicted rapist who proudly brags of overturning Roe says giving the power to the states is fair.
But if you look at what we've done with Roe v. Wade, we did something that everyone said couldn't be done, and we got it done. And I give great credit to the Supreme Court and the justices for having the courage to do it.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Alabama or Mississippi, but it's not a lot different than this. Even today, religion and bigotry still control a huge swath of these red states, and guns are a ubiquitous part of their culture. These states can intimidate women, minorities, and trans people from accessing their rights. And officials at local levels who stand up to these laws often have their lives threatened. Trump is a clear and present danger to women in every way a man can be, a rapist and a misogynist, but most importantly, he's the strongest case yet for contraception.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Damn right.
Am I wrong?
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I'm Chip Franklin.